right, and now to officially kick things off for the second day of the conference, we will hear from Marcus Sibley. Marcus is an environmental and social justice activist, speaker, and poet with a deep and profound commitment to justice and progress. He is the Director of Conservation Partnerships for the National Wildlife Federation's Northeast Regional Center, where he works to build capacity for the fights for animal, human, and environmental rights. In his jurisdiction, which includes New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, he works closely with affiliate organizations, the New Jersey Audubon, Environmental Advocates of New York, and Connecticut Forests and Parks Association. And he also works closely with the NWF National Environmental Justice Team and the International Team. He's a Newark, New Jersey native. He serves as the New Jersey NAACP Environmental and Climate Justice Chairman, the president of the Southern Burlington County NAACP branch, and the chairman of the New Jersey Progressive Equitable Energy Coalition. He's received multiple awards for environmental advocacy and social justice. He serves on the Lead-Free New Jersey Coalition Advocacy Committee, the New Jersey Communities for Accountable Policing Coalition, and the New Jersey Offshore Wind Coalition. A Rutgers University alum with undergraduate and graduate degrees in social work, Marcus has presented across the country for over 15 years, and we are so grateful to have him deliver the keynote address to kick off day 2 of this year's EcoCareers conference. And as a fellow person from New Jersey, I'm happy to have you here. Marcus, the digital floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, David, for this opportunity. Looking forward to sharing and also learning. So I want to definitely point out to everyone that the chat is meant to be interactive. So I would love, as we go through this presentation, anything that comes to your heart, I would love for you to put it in the chat. I would try my best to not let it distract me, but I like the interaction. Adjusting to the virtual world is different when you're used to speaking in front of the crowd. So let's make this fun. Let's make this exciting. Let's make this interactive. So the first thing I want to ask everyone to do, I want to know where everyone is from. I'm curious where you're from and where you claim. So, you could have been born in a place and you only lived there for like a year, but you lived another place for more time. I want to know the more time, that the place you call home. I want to get an idea of what's home for everyone. So could we just take a moment to populate the chat? Manassas, Virginia. Thank you, Christy, Virginia. Thank you, Mary. And this is important. So thank you for everyone who is participating. St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm gonna try to go through these as they come. Let me put it on another screen so I can see this a little bit better. Arlington, Texas, Scottsdale, Arizona, Baldwin, Georgia, Austin, Texas again, St. Paul said that, Maryland, but New Jersey and Virginia are the homes, DC. And someone else is a social worker. Gotta love that. Come on, let's get some more. Let's get some more. I want to know where everyone is from. And yes, this is 1000% relevant to what we're talking about. Where you're from ties into your outlook. It ties into your sense of purpose. It ties into your passion. And those are things we're going to be speaking about this morning. So I definitely am appreciative of, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Arkansas, South Jersey. Okay, I'm in South Jersey right now. Perfect. I'm originally from North Jersey, but I live in South Jersey now. All right, so yeah, this is a good mix. We're coming in. Oh, let's see, New Hampshire and Minnesota seem to be home, but you live in Massachusetts. Great. So this is important, and we're going to get right into the presentation. And again, I thank you so much for joining us today. There's so many other things going on, but everyone here decided that EcoCareers is something that deserves your attention. So I absolutely appreciate this opportunity to share with you today. And again, just to restate my name, I am Marcus Sibley. I work for National Wildlife Federation. This is an absolute honor to be here this morning speaking to you, because the people on the other side of this screen one day are going to be the people that transform our planet. And that's exciting to me. There's so many different ways that we can play a role in preserving our planet, conserving our planet, and protecting our planet. And each one of you could be a piece in that puzzle. And that's the first thing I want to start off with. This is a puzzle. Everything about our planet is a puzzle. They're bigger pieces, they're smaller pieces. But in order to complete a puzzle, you need every piece. So the first thing you need to understand is whatever your passion is, and everyone has a different passion. We'll get into that. But if your passion could be something like, I love recycling. I grew up being into recycling. If I wanted to be a recycling manager, that's a piece of the puzzle. Or if you wanted to be a marine biologist, that's a piece of the puzzle. If you wanted to be a turbine installer for offshore wind, that's a piece of the puzzle. So understanding that we all have an opportunity to make a great impact on our future. So I want to get into that, because like today we're here for the EcoCareers conference. And why is that important? That's important because we're being very honest about where we are in life. Like if I told you tomorrow at 3 p.m. there was going to be a truck barreling down your street at 3 p.m., what are you going to do? Like, think about it. If you know exactly what time something is happening, if you know what is coming toward you, if you don't prepare, what are you doing? So this is what we're doing right now with this EcoCareers conference. We're preparing for where the world is headed. The world is headed towards more sustainable jobs, more wildlife jobs, more conservation jobs. This is where we're headed. People are finally making the decision that the way we've been doing things, regardless of how long we've done them, there's a better way, there's a cleaner way, there's a more efficient way of doing it. So we need a new workforce for those different fields, for those different professions. So this is preparation. You're preparing yourself for where the industry is headed. And that's important. So first thing, I'm glad that you guys are here. I'm glad that you recognize that this is where we're headed. And let me get as much information. Let me try to obtain as many resources, many contacts, anything that I can do to put myself in the best position so that I can be ahead in this new field that's coming. And it's not new because these jobs have been here, but it's new because on a national scale, more and more states are recognizing the importance of going green and cleaning up our environment and understanding the benefits of a green economy. So this makes sense. So let's start right there. It makes sense to make an investment of your time, your energy, your activities, your resources, your goals, your dreams in this space, because it can be beneficial for you. We'll get into why later, but it makes sense. And I'm glad that you guys are here. But before I even jump deeper into that, I want to speak about my journey to this space. As was mentioned, I had multiple roles and jobs in environment and in conservation, but that wasn't how I started. I've always had a love for animals. My father growing up, he's a fisherman to this day, but when we weren't watching sports, we were watching National Geographic. So I got my introduction to wildlife, to animals, to everything, to outdoors, through watching television with my father, and that was important to me. So I had a love for animals from that relationship with my father. I had a respect for the environment because my father didn't like litter. So anytime we were outside, it don't matter if I did it or not, and I usually didn't do it. But if something was on the ground, he made me pick it up. And he says, you have to look after where you live. He said, if you don't respect where you live, no one else will respect where you live. And that was an important message for me growing up, understanding the importance of my contribution to my space. We all live here. We all should be stewards of the space that we live in. We should all be ambassadors to make sure that our environment is doing well and thriving. So any small steps that we can take to ensure that we have a better environment, we should have an investment in doing that. So very young, I was taught the importance of recycling. I was then taught the importance of being kind to animals and understanding why it's important that we respect animals and we respect their habitats and we respect the fact that everything or many of the things we were doing that benefit us were detrimental to the biodiversity and detrimental to the habitats of our animals and plant life. So I learned that early, but I wasn't in the space. So I went to school and got my degrees in social work. I have an undergraduate and a master's degree in social work. And I worked as a family therapist for a few years. And nothing to do with conservation, but it was about people. And I became a speaker after that point. Well, first I started an independent music label because I wanted to put social work themes and therapy into music. So I started an independent record label, and then I became a speaker. So I started touring the country speaking, but nothing was related to conservation. And then fast forward to a few years ago, I was, my wife was involved with the NAACP, and I was complaining about how they aren't doing anything. And she's put me on the spot and said, if they're not doing anything, why won't you do something? Like, if you're going to complain, why don't you come in and help? Because you understand how important this organization is. Why won't you get involved and help and be the change that you want to see? So I did. I got involved. I started off as the communications chair for the local branch, where actually my wife was the president of that local branch. So with her being the president of the branch, I stepped in to help with the branding and the imaging and the optics, and I became the communications chair. From that point, I then moved up to the communications chair for the state. And while in that role with the state, I started paying more attention to the environment. And I started realizing that we put a lot of emphasis on social justice. We put a lot of emphasis on our political action, getting out the vote. There's a lot of things we put a lot of emphasis on, but I didn't see a lot of emphasis on the environment. And I was noticing that so many things that impact our environment are, like with everything, disproportionately impacting Black people and people of color. So I said to our president, and we had a chair at the time, I said, listen, if you give me this opportunity, I think that I can help put our organization in a place where we can really make change for our communities. So I was appointed the Environmental and Climate Justice Chair. And from that point, I just started building relationships all across the state, because I understood something really, really important. I understood that no matter how much I wanted things to change, I needed help to make things change. So I had to establish relationships. I had to build, I had to go to different events to network. I had my business cards. I was out there networking, making sure that everyone knew my name and I knew their name and I had their contact information. And through those events, I was able to connect and establish relationships with some environmental groups who do really good work. And they also understood that it was time to stop being performative and really do work that impacts our community. Different management in different organizations. Organizations may have acted a certain way before, but we have different people in management positions and executive positions who realize the way we did things before was not effective and it wasn't right, and we have to do things better going forward. And I appreciated that. So I was able to connect with a couple different people, and one of the people I connected with was my now manager, Curtis Fisher, who is the regional executive director for the Northeast Regional Center for National Wildlife Federation. And while we were meeting, discussing things, he brought up a position at NWF. And fast forward, this is where we are today. And the reason I tell that story is because your passion is what matters. There's a difference between a job and a career. And that's why we're here at the EcoCareers conference, to understand that difference. I had different jobs. I had many different jobs, but NWF presented me with an opportunity where I can bring my worlds together, because your career should encompass your passions. I want you to really internalize that. Your career should encompass your passions. So let's take a really quick look at what a job is. Quick definition of job is a piece of work, especially a specific task done as part of a routine of one's occupation, or for an agreed price, or a post of employment full-time or part-time position, or a paid position of regular employment. Now let's look at the definition of career. An occupation undertaken for a significant period of a person's life with opportunities for progress. An occupation or profession, especially one requiring special training, followed as one's life's work. A person's progress or general course of action through life or through phase of life, as in someone's profession or undertaking. So, one of these times to utilize our chat box again. From the definition that we just had of a job and definition we just had of career, which one of those from the definitions you heard where you see passion apply? Does passion apply to a job or passion apply to a career? And before you answer that, let me give you the definition of passion. Strong and barely controllable emotion, intense, driving, or overmastering feeling or conviction, a strong liking or desire for or devotion to some activity, object, or concept, an object of desire or deep interest. And here's the last definition, which is to me the best. Any powerful or compelling emotion or feeling as love or hate. So now I'll give you the definition of passion. I would love for you to go into the chat and tell me which one does passion apply to? Someone's career or someone's job? I'm going to take a second. I'm going to see if this populates. Let's see. Palevi Kalia says career. John Walter says career. Mary Carson, career. Courtney Cochran says career. Thank you so much for those responses. I'm going to wait for 2 more. Again, I wasn't kidding. This needs to be interactive. There we go. Uriel Martinez, career. Millward James, career. Deborah Dooley, career. Absolutely. And Eugene says passion applies to career with broad definition, life, work, paid or unpaid. And we have many more career from Maria, Katie, Brian. Thank you guys so very much for making this interactive because I appreciate that. So yes, passion applies to career. A job is a means to an end. A career is what we need because career is the long term. Anything you're doing long term, you want to be excited about it. You want to have a drive. You need something that's going to get you out of bed to do that work when you're tired or when you have things going on in your life. That's where the passion part is important. And the job piece is important because at the end of the day, what's the reality that we all deal with? We all deal with the reality that money matters. Resources matter. It's difficult to be at your best and to provide services for others when you have bills to pay and they're on your mind. It costs money to go to work. It costs money to insure the car that you drive to work. It costs money for the public transportation that you may take to work, or the Uber or the Lyft or whatever rideshare service you use. It costs money for the life insurance you'll need. It'll cost money for the food, and it'll cost money for your clothing that you wear to work, and the rent you pay for the place you live, or the mortgage you pay for the home that you buy. Everything that we need in life, there's expenses for. So if every one of us has to have expenses, we have things that no matter what walk of life you come from, no matter what amount of resources you may come from, there will be responsibilities that you have once you're on your own. So if we all have these responsibilities, understand that financial responsibilities, doesn't it make sense for us to put in the work so that we can have a career doing what we love, so that we can fund our expenses while doing something that we love? Like, doesn't that logically make sense? And understand what I said. Work is going to take work to get you to that point. There's jobs everywhere. You can pull up an app on your phone and get a job right now, but that might not be what you're passionate about. Getting to the place where you can do on a daily basis what you're passionate about, it's going to take work. It's going to take internship. So you can get more information about that field so you can know if this is really what you want to do. It's going to take working to afford whatever costs are involved with becoming proficient in that space. It's going to take maybe going to college or having an advanced degree or some type of training. It's going to take things that require resources. But if you're looking at the end goal is just setting yourself up to do something for the rest of your life that you love to do. So I'm going to take a quick pivot and take you back to my life a few years ago. As I mentioned, and was mentioned in my bio, I was a speaker. I was a speaker traveling the country for 16 years. And the difficulty about speaking is sometimes I can have a month where I have 10 speaking gigs. So I'm flying all over the country twice in a week, once a week, twice in a week, multiple times a month. There could be other times where it's slow and there were no speaking gigs in a month, or it could be a month and a half before there's a speaking gig. Because I had expenses, I needed to have a job, and I needed to have a job that was flexible enough that I could just take off whenever I needed to, and then I still had a job waiting for me. So many people don't believe it, but this is the truth. Some years ago, you know, when you go into a supermarket and you see the people there with the like blue jackets on, and they're counting the produce, and they're doing inventory. It's like inventory services. I was doing inventory services, and I did it willingly. It didn't pay well at all. It sucked, and I won't pretend that it sucked, but it allowed me the flexibility to fly off and do what I needed to do, and then come back and then still have a means to earn some money. So quite literally, one of my speaking gigs would make more than 2 months of my work doing inventory services. And that's a fact. But this was a job, and I had to do this job to get to where I needed to be. And I give you that example because sometimes jobs won't be glamorous, but that's what an investment is for. We have to make investment in ourselves. We have to make an investment in our passion. If you care about something, you have to care enough to give everything and to give anything to get there. Because I can tell you, if the end goal, and if you reach your end goal and you're able to wake up every single day doing something that you love, every single sacrifice that you've made to get to that point will be worth it. And I'm not just saying that to say that. I'm saying that because it's the truth. So that's where the passion comes in. This is why I want everybody to be passionate. You have to figure out what you're passionate about. Like when growing up, did you have a passion for being outside and making sure that that there was greenery around your place? Like, did you plant flowers? Did you make sure that the aesthetics around you were beautiful? Or did you, anytime you see animal cruelty, it bothered you to your core? You always felt like you needed to do something about it? Or when you see these different polluted facilities in your neighborhood, did that bother you? And you said, I have to do something about it? Like, whatever you see that touches you to your core, chances are that's your passion. And you have to be open to that. You have to listen to that. Because many people make a lot of money, but they're not happy. But the beauty of the EcoCareers conference is giving you the understanding that there are opportunities where you can help people, but you can also make it a career where you actually earn money helping people. Like that hasn't always been the case. This is a beautiful time. This is a beautiful time where you can do what's right for our planet, but also what's right for your bottom line. So I'm excited about these opportunities. I'm excited about all of you being on this conference. I'm excited about you all gaining information. And these last few days, I've been collecting information from different agencies all across our state because they need people, and you need places to go. You need internships. You have to have internships. You need opportunities. So what I'm going to do, I'm compiling this list, and David, I'm going to send this to you because you have access to the contact information. But I want to be able to funnel this information about these opportunities that are out here across our country so that people, you have a head start. I want you to have a head start. It's important because there's two things that are very important here. Your passion for what you do, and also the understanding of the importance of the work that you will be doing. Because one thing that is very real in this space, in this green space, and that will always be the elephant in the room, is that we have had a history of racism and white supremacy that has caused many environments to get the very short end of the stick. Many environments get the bulk of the pollutant facilities. Many environments get the least of the resources. Many environments, which means also many people, have been the sacrificial lamb so other people could benefit. So this is where that passion comes in. Your passion is important because you need to be able to go into your profession and say, there's a big reason why what I'm doing matters. There are communities right now where young people are dealing with cancer and asthma and autism and many other reasons that are impacts or directly correlated to the pollution. But there's many animals that have so many different endangered species. There's many cities that are losing square footage by the day because of the erosion and the flooding and their lack of stormwater management. There are many fights that you need to jump in right away because historically these communities have had no help. They've only gotten word service. They've only gotten wordplay. But they need people with passion, going back to that term, we need people with passion who can say, this is not right. We need people like me to get involved and get these jobs so that I can right these wrongs, because what good does it make it if we're fighting to clean up our planet? If while cleaning up our planet, we're not taking into account these communities that have been traditionally, historically disrespected, exploited, and left out of opportunities. So how can I feel good about doing one thing on one hand, when on the other hand, there's groups of people who are fighting for clean air, fighting for clean water, you know what I'm saying? Fighting to get trees in their community that can filter out all these toxins, because the deforestation is so serious for the development and in these different communities. So we need you. We need you to understand that love matters. Love is the basis of passion. I need you to love what you do. I need you to hate what's wrong. You get that? I need you to love the work that you're doing, and I need you to be passionate. I need you to hate what's happening in our world and let that drive you to fight, even when you're exhausted, even when everyone else around you is just playing along to the same playbook. I need you to love what you're doing enough to say, I don't care what the status quo is. I'm going to make my contribution so things are better when I'm no longer here. So when I'm thinking about these different jobs, like there's energy auditor, environmental engineers, environmental lawyers, environment protection technician, environmental scientists, hydrologists, landscape architects, solar photovoltaic installers, urban and regional planners, wildlife biologists, wind turbine technicians, farm managers, recycling managers, water resource engineers, air quality engineers, and the list goes on and on. There are many opportunities where you can not only benefit your community, but you can fund your passions. Because at the end of the day, I want you to have a career in these green spaces, but I also want you to have the resources so you can enjoy life as well. All work and no play is not fun. I want you to be able to have a job that allows you to take a vacation when you need to, because the problem we have, people burn out. I want you to have your career for many, many years. So I want you to work, whatever it is you're interested in. I want you to research what it takes to get to where you need to be. Research what places you need to connect with in order to get where you need to be. Research how much it costs so you can figure out what grants and scholarships I need and who's offering those different scholarships and grants, what the time commitment is like. I need you to take this so seriously, because the payoff will be happiness in a career that you will have the rest of your life. So I want to stop there. I want to give us an opportunity to have some questions. And again, David, I really appreciate this opportunity to share And I am appreciative of everyone who is on today, because one day I hope to be working for you. So I want to make it a good impression now.
And we appreciate you spending your time with us this morning and sharing your insights. There were a couple points that actually came up that reminded me of some of the questions that came in different sessions yesterday. And so I wanted to ask about that. And one of the questions that we got in a career planning session had to do with the work or lack thereof of getting a degree in something and then not sticking in that field in their career path. As someone who has transitioned from one field to another, what are your thoughts on this concern going into a program?
Well, I'm gonna say this, and it's usually not the most popular response, but you have to do what feels good. At different points of our lives, we have different priorities. So the priorities you may have at 20, at 17, at 23, 25, it may be different than your priorities at 35 or 40. So that's the beauty of life. As long as you live, you have opportunities to create the life that you want to live. So even if you've made major investments in something, if you lose the passion, or if you find something else, then you realize that I gravitate toward that more, then my answer is always, if you have the ability to make that transition, I encourage people to make that transition. But you have to be honest. Everybody doesn't have that ability. Sometimes life happens, you have responsibilities. It's harder to just make a clean transition. Sometimes that transition just kind of take a little bit longer. But if it's your passion, if this is what gets you out of bed, then I say, like I said, I was a social worker, and now I work for NWF. But for me, there is a connection. So like, to me, there is still a connection in my work. So for me, it wasn't drastic for me. You know what I mean? Like I not to this day, I wish those 100,000+ in student loans were actually in this field. But other than that, there was a connection. But some people, it's night and day. Some people, you just change, and that's the beauty of getting older. So that's the other reason I'm just going to plug really quickly, David. It's important to make good decisions, because the decisions we make impact our ability to make that change. So it's important to make good decisions so that if you do need to make a life-altering decision, you can. You have the clean slate or the ability or the resources to do so. So that's just my answer there. Just, do what your heart tells you to do, but try to leave yourself the options to be able to do that.
Question just came into the chat. I think that young people aren't exposed to these green career opportunities. How can we help spread the word?
So thank you. Excellent question. And I think one thing, the onus has to be on our different organizations. This just past week, I was at the Northeast Fish and Wildlife Conference. I had the opportunity to speak directly to officials from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, to USDA, many different leaders from Canada through 13 states, and BC were there. And I had the opportunity to say to them directly, the importance of internships. You need to provide more internships, and they need to be paid internships. I made that very clear to everyone I spoke to, and also made it clear that we have to do a better job of advertising these different positions. Because I can tell you, there are many, many green jobs available right now, but we just haven't done a good job of advertising that. So the one piece of advice I would give people is, if you see an industry or an agency that you like, go to their website. Just because a lot of people don't have the marketing skills to get the information out, but at a very basic level, they will put openings on their website. So I would just encourage you to go to their website and check out that information. Like this morning, I got emails from representatives from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I got emails from people from NRDC, because I put a post up on my LinkedIn page saying, hey, I'm going to be speaking today. Could you provide information about jobs that I can funnel through to these students? And people have responded. So if you go to these websites, they are jobs, and you just gotta, sometimes you have to be a little bit more proactive, but we are definitely pushing people to be more proactive with their marketing. So it's up to us. Great question. It's up to us to do a better job of getting that information out.
You ran through a list of really rewarding green career pathway possibilities that you were receiving. One of the biggest stressors that we hear from youth is that there are so many big, complex issues and so many choices. How do you know where to focus when it's so overwhelming? The phrase analysis paralysis is relevant, and it's something that I know I struggled with as a youth and ended up going into an ultimately unrewarding passion or pathway, because I didn't figure out what was right for me. I just sort of was like, this is too much to think about, and I'm just going to do something.
Right. That's an excellent question. And I dealt with that myself. When I was a therapist, I was doing really good work, but I was always pained by the fact that there's so many other families that need help, and I wasn't able to connect with them. So that's when I made the decision to become a speaker, because with speaking, I can connect with much larger audiences. So for me, that was my kind of solution to that problem that had been plaguing me. But the other reality is the need will always be too great, David. It will always be more than what we can handle. It's always going to be more than we are able to be comfortable with. It's always more work to do. But that's why it's important, like I said in the very beginning, to realize that this is a puzzle. Like the sooner you realize that this is a puzzle and you have a piece, then you gain peace, because you don't feel like you have to do the entire thing yourself. You just have to do your piece really well. So figure out what your piece is, as they say, find your lane, figure out what your lane is, and then you do that to the best of your ability, and allow your work to encourage the other pieces, so the other pieces can do their job. So if everyone is doing their job, then we're getting a lot accomplished, and we're changing the trajectory of our planet. But it just comes down to realizing that there's so much we can do, but you can do great at what you're doing.
And we probably have time for just one more question. And a good one just came into the chat box from Mary Carson. As a student who wants to get involved in conservation sustainability, do you have advice for getting into the field? And this is something that we get a lot of questions about. Graduating high school students, graduating seniors from college, say, what next? How do I start on this pathway?
Excellent question. And I'll go back to what I've kind of previously mentioned about sometimes we have to be a little more proactive than we would like to. And in my perfect world, there will be programs where these different conservation groups, the same way colleges come to school to recruit, same way armed forces comes to schools to recruit. In my perfect world, there'll be a time where conservation groups are coming to schools to recruit and letting people know all these different opportunities that exist. That's in my perfect world. We're not here yet, but I'm pushing for that. But in the meantime, if you have an interest in a certain area, our young people, we just have to be a little more proactive. We have to go online, figure out if I like this, then what agencies correlate to this. And once I figure out what those agencies are, a simple Google search will take you to the USDA website, NWF website, National Wildlife Federation's website, and every one of those websites, I'm gonna keep saying it, there is a career opportunities section, or there's an internship section, or there's a programming section, and you may have to do a little bit of work, but I can guarantee you the time that you put into doing that work, it will absolutely pay off. And the other thing is come to things like this. Like this is a conference, you have many different leaders here, making sure you're connecting. There is a lobby, utilize that lobby. Anytime someone leaves an email address, save the email address, be in contact. I won't pretend that it isn't work. It is work in order to get to that space where you get to do what you love. But I'm telling you, the effort that you put in, it will pay off.
Thank you so much. We do have a tight ship here, so I'm going to have to close this session and get the next one started. But thank you again so much for your time this morning and for your words of wisdom. And this is recorded, we'll be sharing this far and wide.
Thank you so much, and everybody keep hope alive.
Take care.